to Meeting Gold, the podcast. Today we are joined with David. David, I never caught your last name.
Walcott.
Walcott?
Walcott. Yeah.
Okay, I got it now. David Walcott.
Very British.
And very British. Are you British? You're British.
No. West Indians.
West Indian.
Yeah,
okay.
so dad's from Barbados, mom is from Jamaica.
Gotcha. Well, David, welcome to the podcast today. Honestly, it's really cool to have you. We shot one this morning with Andrew Perry, and he was kind of talking about networking and communication building in the servicing industry, but that also applies to product, right? And you guys will kind of find out that David is heavily into product. And David, you sell, what is it you sell right now?
Great question. So I have a duffel bag, which basically has multiple functions. Should have brought it here today. So basically, you can put your food in it, you can put your suit in it, it converts into a backpack, you can put your meals in it. It's absolutely amazing, and it's a multi-purpose duffel. And it came to me because I used to be a financial planner, and I gained like 40 pounds, like 40 pounds overweight, and I started to get into fitness, and I was carrying like 4 bags just to be able to function in my day. So when I got laid off because of the pandemic, I said, hey, let me create the product that I've always wanted, and that's how I came up with the idea.
Fascinating. Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of, at least the products that succeed, right? They find a niche in something that they need, and then they figure out how to make it happen. And you did. So everybody kind of knows a little bit about you right now, but give us a little background. How old are you? A little bit of your background as well, like finance-wise, and then coming in and making that transition. Just give us like a 2-minute rundown.
Yeah, I mean, I've done so many different things. I started off, my educational background is actually in tech. But I had to pay for school, so I had to sell, and then that's how I got into like the communications field. Then did a bunch of various jobs until I landed in finance, and I was like started from the bottom all the way to the top, was a teller, then got into mutual fund sales, then became a stockbroker, and then from a stockbroker became a financial planner. But all throughout that whole period of time, I was always in digital marketing, or I was always doing things on the side, because in my early 20s, I ran like an internet marketing company that flopped, and that's a story for another day. But I mean, I wasn't as slick as Sam was when I was in my younger days. And the bottom line is it didn't work out. So that's how I basically got into finance and spent the last 10 years in that space. And then, just recently, the pandemic happened, and then I got laid off. And then I said, listen, let me start taking all those skills that I've had in the background and put it to some use. And, that's how it started.
So, David, you've basically started this company called
Hustle and Fit,
right? And you are now in Hercs Nutrition selling these duffel bags.
Yep, Hercs Nutrition. We are in Workhouse, the fitness location, the micro gym, and we are expanding into that. Also selling online. So that's pretty much been the way it's been moving.
Now, there's a lot we can cover in this podcast, because I mean, how do you go about taking a bag and getting it into huge stores like Hercs Nutrition, even building those connections on getting in there and realizing, okay, like I have to make a presentation, or I have to build this relationship with this person. Then it's got to carry on to this, that. Give us kind of like, how did you actually get into Hercs? Like, how did you get into these shops?
Actually, it's pretty straightforward. I just walked in there.
Really?
Yeah, and it starts off with that one relationship. So, I went into one, it wasn't originally Hercs. I went into one nutrition store. I said, hey, here's what I have. I displayed it to them. They said, maybe you should check out this other location. Then eventually I showed it to someone that was in a Hercs Nutrition in East Gwillimbury. And then from there, basically, he said he loved the bag. And he's like, this is amazing. Right. And then I said, okay, cool. So we got it into his Hercs location. And then I said, hey, I really like their motto. I like their brand. I like what they stand for. So let me go and talk to these other store owners and find out that, how we can make it happen. So one time, which is a crazy incident, I walk into the Hercs Nutrition down in it's in Mississauga. And I go in there and I say, hey, can I talk to the owner? And then the guy who's behind the counter is saying, hey, he's over there talking to those 3 or 4 other guys. I'm like, okay, no problem. So we're just sitting there. I'm just talking to the guy who works. Yeah. And the thing is, I'm also trying to always get better in my health. So I was just asking him, what can I do for my gut health? And he was giving me suggestions. Mm-hmm. Anyways, we're sitting there for 20 minutes. And I'm like, wow, this guy's talking to this group of guys for a while. I feel like, I don't know if I should start to leave or whatever. And then I'm like, who is he talking to over there? And he's like, oh, that's the CEO of Hercs.
What?
Yeah. And then I'm like, are you kidding me? And then he's like, that's the operations manager. And this is the digital manager. He's also over there too. I'm like, what are we saying? We're in front of the power team here of Hercs? And then he's like, I'm like, yeah, I'll just wait. I'll just wait here patiently. So eventually, as they're talking, they look over and they're like, who is this guy? And I kind of smile and I wave. And then I said, I'm like, hey, no problem. Keep doing your meeting. When you guys have a chance, I'll talk. And then they're just still staring at me because they're like, why is this guy still here?
They're like, what the hell is this guy doing in my shop?
Exactly. So I eventually walk. I'm like, you know what? I'll just do the presentation in front of all of you.
Like
and then,
literally right there,
boom. And that's it. And then I'm sitting there standing in front of the Herc CEO and all these guys. And they're like, CEO, he's like the, alpha dog. He's sitting there. Everyone's quiet.
Is everybody like...
Yeah, they're pretty big. They're pretty big guys too. Nobody's like, everybody's pretty much in shape.
Yep.
And I'm standing there and I'm like, okay, silence hits the room. And the CEO's like, I like it. But we're going to need to do a lot more in terms of the way that we're going to, push this out. Because,
well, of course. Yeah.
So, and you could tell like he has a lot of years in business. Really great guy, Dave. And then from there, he starts introducing me to like Derek and Shagan and all these individuals basically. And then from that's how I started my relationship. And then also, sorry, I forgot one part.
Yeah.
Then the same person who introduced me to Avraz, shout out to Avraz, from East Gwillimbury, Hercs, he also told me to come and meet the guy who runs City Place Hercs. And that was Arthur. And then Arthur, or we call him Art. And Art also loved the bag. So between those connections, it was hilarious because it was almost like Dave, the CEO, was like hearing about me without actually seeing me until eventually he saw me. So it was almost, so I would say to like some people, it's like, you got to get your first, just get out there and basically start talking to people. And
you have to be willing to be rejected.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You just said you were rejected 2 times walking in. I mean, with all due respect, you must have looked like some nut job walking in with a bag.
Yeah, really.
Like, what? This guy's going to now get all of his bags in Hercs all of a sudden? Like, no. Yeah. Like, go to another shop, buddy. Yeah, exactly. And then what? All it took is one person, right?
It took one person. And I went to other supplement stores. So 2 other supplement stores kind of rejected me. And then it was that one relationship that at Hercs. And that's when I was saying, like, I felt like the culture at Hercs was different because I went to 2 other supplement stores. They both kind of, it wasn't a full-out rejection, but it was kind of like, I could tell it, like it was a Canadian no. It was like, yeah, well, look, I didn't feel strongly with it. So, but it was that one opportunity that I got at, the East Gwillimbury Hercs that started the thought process that there's something different in the Hercs, the Hercs water, that I need to keep talking to these different individuals. Keep
building those relationships. Okay, now you've given us a rundown of how you got into Hercs, but somebody who has an idea, how can they go and formulate that idea? So you were like, I want to create a duffel bag. How did you formulate that idea? Because I actually did a presentation a little while ago, and I said you need to figure out how to formulate your idea before you go about trying to make it happen, right? So how did you kind of do that, structure the whole thought process, and make it come to be? Did you write down steps? Was it okay, I got to do this, and I got to talk to this person, or like what did that look like, David?
It took a little bit of time. I mean, the first thing was to really understand like what was my pain point. So I have a background in trying different product ideas. I've always been interested in making money. That's why I got in finance. So I tried different things. But the secret sauce, or the thing that I think was different in this situation, was I did something that I had a problem with. So I think that's one of the major key pieces, is to really identify something that really bothers you, and then start to kind of map out, okay, well, here is the problem. And then what are some potential solutions to this overall issue?
Right.
So when I first started out, I was like, okay, I have to carry 4 different bags. Okay, possible solution. What if I could put everything into one? Okay, then what was the problem there? And then as I was digging, as I would start to go down the rabbit hole, I was slowly peeling away the onion, and that's how the product came into be. Something as simple as like, I didn't want the shaker cup or the water bottle holder to be on the outside because I felt like that looked tacky. How could I get it on the inside? But then here's the problem. The backpack can convert into the duffel bag can convert into a backpack. So now if you pull it into a backpack mode and you have the shaker cup, it could just like fall out. So how do I? So like these like little challenges here and there help to kind of define how to overall like create the product. So I would say start off with something that's really bothering you, or at least something that you have some interest in. So it may not be a personal problem, but a problem that matters to you in some
because
form.
Is that because I'm sure you had a lot of challenges, which we'll get into about starting the business. is that kind of why you would say you need to enjoy it and find something that you're passionate about to fix? Because otherwise you will probably quit after the first or second failure. I think that's failure or mistake.
Mistake, yeah. I think that's the biggest thing, is that if there's no passion or interest, you will basically fall off fast. Now, you got to also know yourself. You have to know your own personal temperament. I've come to realize that when I'm not interested in something, I will fall off.
Right.
So there are some people out there who will do something strictly for money. Like, they could literally create a kid's toy and have no kids and hate kids and just do it. That's their personality trait. So you got to identify, am I this type of person? Can I do something I don't enjoy, but I enjoy winning, or I enjoy maybe making money? That's what makes me, you got to identify who you are. And then once you identify which type of person you are, then go down that field. So I realized that I have to have an interest in the product. Otherwise, I will fall off. And I've tried both versions for myself.
Right.
And then once I got the interest portion, that's when I started to move down okay, let's break down the diagram and the problems, and then we'll break out the outline. And yeah, the main reason is, for someone like my personality set, is that if I don't have interest in something, as soon as I get hit with something that's like really irritating, I fall off. Like right now, I'm dealing with a trademark issue. Right. So imagine I had no interest in this product, and I'm having another company trying to tell me that they don't want me to use my name, and I've got to fight back on top of it. I have no interest. Of course, I'm like,
you're gonna fall off naturally. Like, it's human nature, right?
Yeah, naturally. Like, so you need to have something that really matters to you to keep you involved. But as I said before, that caveat only matters if that's the type of person you are. So you have to figure it out first.
Right. Well, that certainly gives us a little rundown of like kind of how you formulated the idea and how somebody, because I think there's no right or wrong way on, you have to write down steps or do this or do that. Because I think that if you genuinely want to make something work, it'll work. Yeah. Because you truly have a passion for it, and you'll figure out through mistakes, you'll figure out through experiences, through meeting people, hence why I'm trying to talk to as many people as possible on this podcast, because I want to figure out, what if I want to start a business one day that sells product? Well, you'd be a great person to talk to, right? Because you've gone through those specific sets. So
actually, I was going to say something too.
Yeah.
And in terms of the whole breaking things down and planning thing, just be careful, because I have that same challenge too, like where I like to plan things out to death. Business is a moving organism. It doesn't, like, you could have a million plans. When it shits the fan, it's not going to matter. Like, the reality of it is, business, it does not stay. I like to put it like this. I was trying to describe this to someone. I was like, business is like basketball, but the net keeps moving all over the place. Like, you're playing there's the rules. We have the basic rules, but the net is not where, you're not just running to one end of the field and taking the shot. The basketball the basketball net is consistently moving all over the place, and you're just shooting and hoping that you hit something. And over time, you just get good at somehow shooting, and then the ball just goes in somehow. And it really, the real skill set is adaptability. So
you just hit the nail on the head right there. Yeah.
So the real thing about it is, have a very light plan, I would say, but then at the same time, start executing as quickly as you can, because that execution will then put you in front of the reality of business. Because I find that a lot of people that first failure to start, and then the other biggest issue is they're planning for years, and then they go out and they execute it, and then they realize it doesn't even make sense. I had a friend who literally wasted 6 years on a project, and like, I'm literally telling you, this guy literally built WhatsApp before it was WhatsApp, but he just didn't get in front of the customer fast enough that the customer would have given him feedback and said, that original idea is garbage. I want this.
And he could have adapted to build that business to something what it could have been.
Yeah. And it was
the potential.
The potential. He was WhatsApp before WhatsApp, but he was in the time of BlackBerry, where BlackBerry was only on the BlackBerry, like the BlackBerry chat. And he had a solution where you could chat on multiple different types of phones.
Wow.
And he just missed the boat, and then he missed another boat. It was crazy. I watched him.
So you think so? Yeah, I guess there's kind of a fine line and a balance, because you have to be able to kind of formulate the idea, not like be a but also be a go-getter. You could like, I could go write down an idea on starting a space company, but do I have the drive to go do it? Well, we'll have to find out, right? So you have to push yourself to go past the point of writing stuff down to now acting on it.
Exactly.
And that goes, I mean, that's so cliche, but acting on the things you say you're going to do, right?
Exactly.
Because if you don't, then you're going to be stuck in that planning process your entire life. Exactly. And you're going to miss out on opportunities like what you just mentioned. Okay, now let's talk a little bit, because I'm actually really curious to know, right now your bags are selling in Hercs, and I'm assuming you probably have some e-commerce store that you're selling.
I'm selling online right now, so I'm selling in my directly in my on my online store, and I'm also on Amazon.
Okay,
So I'm
selling
also,
on Amazon as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how did you go about building that store, and then like acting on the idea of getting online and then also generating sales?
Yeah, that's a good question. So so what happened was I was in this kind of weird space when I got laid off, and then I was like, what am I gonna really do at this point, right? Am I gonna go jump into another job, or what can I do? So then what I did was actually the first thing I did was I bought a course. So I bought an Amazon course, an Amazon training course. And that took me a while because there was just so many like fake gurus out there and everything. It's just too creepy. But I found this one person, shout out to Travis Marziani. I'm just shouting out everybody. And I went and took his course. He was just really genuine. He talked real numbers, and I was really happy with what he was saying. And then I said to myself, I said, if this guy responds, I sent him an email. If this guy responds to me like a regular human being, I'm going to pay the money and I'm going to start working with him.
Right.
And he did. Like literally sent him an email, and he's like, hey, Dave, yeah, no problem. And he just responded to me like a regular. And I was like, okay, good. So I signed up for his course, and then I followed his process. So the process that he had was, the first thing you do is you figure out what product are you passionate about. You do some basic level research, like, you maybe use Google Analytics or Google Trends and try to figure out if there's a need for it. Check on Amazon if there's people buying certain products and so forth. And then from there, what you do is you actually start to build a community, a tribe, right? And that's going to be interesting because now with social media, this is going to be the big part of why I had to build an Instagram following and so forth and so on. So you build up the tribe, and then from the tribe, you launch a Kickstarter campaign. And then from the Kickstarter campaign, then you launch out to wherever you need to sell out to.
Right.
And that's kind of how I went from like 0 to 60. So I was basically following the outline that I was, going, and I just execute on. So that's the thing, right? The whole execution was key because I had people in my class, that same e-commerce group, that even now, and this has been over a year and something, they still haven't launched the product.
Wow. And it's almost like it really does seem like they just want to plan, and then never execute.
Because they're scared. Like literally, it's the fear. But the reality of it is, and there's a lot of bad things that happen. No doubt, I get why they're scared. I lost a lot of money. Amazon ate a hole in my wallet. I felt like Amazon was my third employee. Like I was just paying them, right? So I did get a lot of losses. And as I said to you when we were talking off camera about how I had a large Instagram following, but not everything converted into overall sales on my Kickstarter campaign.
Let's touch on that actually, because that kind of goes into my question of marketing and generating sales. You do a lot of, David actually does a lot of TikToks and reels and stuff like that on Instagram and stories and stuff, which is super beneficial. But at the same time, you've probably found that that's not what's going to generate you 80% conversion rates on your online e-commerce shop. So kind of touch on that. And then maybe what are other methods you've found that have worked? And, a big thing is about on social media is complimenting each other, right?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I found that worked for me was it was building those relationships, because so last year, so the year before I basically set up a podcast similar to what you did actually.
Really? Yeah.
So Hustle and Fit had a YouTube channel, and I was basically connecting with influencers, and I was interviewing them, which I found was a better way to actually build a relationship, because you could call them up and be like, hey, you're an influencer, come and take a bag and whatever. But the thing is, the relationship isn't really there. So they're like, okay, well, I'll charge you, $1,500, and it's kind of awkward. I had one influencer, shout out to Nunzi, with over 200,000 followers who basically repped the bag and gave us some support. And so, that all came from, starting with that podcast and giving them exposure, because a lot of them also, the biggest thing for them is to kind of speak in their own voice, right? Get to talk about what they do and what makes them special and stuff like that. Bree, another influencer, she's a Canadian-based fitness influencer. We did an interview, and that, I would say, was one of the most powerful influencers I had. I mean, Bree went above and beyond. There's just so many people to count, man. I almost feel bad that I'm not mentioning everybody. There's just a lot of people that went
right.
But I would say the bottom line was to build those relationships, and those relationships will basically kind of help you to build up the momentum. So I would say a mix of the strategy that really worked for me was, building up my Instagram account. I think the Instagram account really wasn't that strong in terms of conversions, but it was strong in terms of making me look like like I had a brand. I had a presence.
Right, your personal brand.
Yeah,
which is a huge.
Not the person. That was the mistake I made.
Oh,
so I'll get
okay.
into that in a second. But on the business side, it gave me a certain level of credence, because when they would go check out Official Hustle and Fit, they would see that I have like 24,000 followers. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll take a shot on giving this guy an opportunity.
Right.
Now, mind you, some of those influencers had worked with me even when I had like 0 followers, which is a shout out to those people. But the ones who started to really feel like, okay, this guy has a little bit more credence, is because I had that following. Now, did that following convert into direct sales? I would say some of the more relationships I had on the influencer side that were really good influencers helped more on the conversion side than the actual like the direct followers that I had on Instagram. And the reason why I think that happened, really and truly, was the way I built it. It was actually my fault.
Right.
I should have been a little bit more targeted on the people that I was attracting, because a lot of the people that I was attracting weren't necessarily interested in the product. They may have been interested in like a free prize or something like that. And that was kind of an error on my part.
So almost attracting the wrong
type of followers.
Right. So that's a big one then. Is attracting people that truly have an interest in what you're doing.
Exactly.
1,000 loyal followers is better than 100,000 unloyal followers, because that 1,000, will go to the ends of the earth to support you, but 100,000, 50 might like your post.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. It's like I literally can tell the types of people who are constantly supporting my brand. You know what I mean? So that's a big thing. It's like I can literally see them, and that's interesting because I've got 23,000 followers, but then now I'm like looking at them, like I see the same groups of people that are responding all the time.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, are those 20,000 followers really helpful, or is it better to have, like exactly what you said, having 1,000 core hungry raving fans?
Right.
And I would say getting a core hungry raving fans are going to do much better for you than having 100,000 followers that don't care about you. So try to build a higher level of quality, and some of the ways you can do that is by basically vetting out, like trying to basically kind of like see, like you're running a podcast that's about building a brand, so you want to find people who are interacting on Instagram when they look at other brand people. Like if, let's say for instance, as an example, Gary Vee, like all these, you're looking in the comments section and these people are like constantly commenting on Gary Vee stuff.
Right.
And Gary Vee does a lot of brand building stuff. So then you would say, okay, I want to attract that person. So maybe you like what they're doing, or you comment on what they're doing on their Instagram account, and then get that relationship going, right? Make sure that if you're running targeted Instagram ads, which I was doing, you basically make it say, okay, these are the types of people I want. Don't do like a broad type of thing, but start maybe being a lot more targeted so that you can attract that person that makes the most sense, right? So you really have to understand your own product to make sure and then eventually over time really understand who your customers are. Now here's the thing. It happens to me too, because I thought I knew who my customer was.
Right.
But over time, as I sell the bags, I realized I don't know who they are. So I'm learning more now, and now I have a better sense. But that only came from experience.
Yeah, it only came from experience. So it's almost like you're kind of thinking, like, when somebody comes out with an e-commerce shop or whatever they come out with, you can know somewhat of your like, okay, am I going to sell hockey sticks? Well, who's my target audience? Hockey players.
Right.
But is it 40-year-old men playing beer league, or is it,
NHL players?
NHL players.
And
like
it's a big difference.
Exactly. So that just comes from experience and understanding really in depth who your niche is just go.
And craziness. So I started off as a financial planner who wanted to get in shape. I built a bag called Hustle and Fit. So business, professional with fitness. And I get people from the military that are buying the bag. And I'm like,
wow.
Didn't expect that. But when I asked the guy from the military, he's like, we're all about efficiency. So it's inefficient for me to have to go and carry 3 different bags, or it's inefficient or whatever. So I want to get a product that helps me to be efficient. And
right.
Your bag fits the bill. So right away, I'm thinking, business professional who wants to stay fit. But the reality of it is, it's actually somebody in, military service. It's a mom. So there's different variations, but that only came through once I started to sell the product, and I started to take note of the different types of people that buy the product.
Now, David, that's like really in depth. I gotta say, we're running out of time. But thank you so much. I want one more question to ask you.
Cool.
Where do you see yourself, business and personal, in 10 years? It's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I used to ask this question too on my podcast. And now I understand why it was so hard to answer that. 10 years. I see myself building a brand, like a brand that is like, is very well known and recognized in the space that I want to be recognized in. I want a worldwide distribution. My goal is to really get the products and services that I'm creating out into like Japan and Asia and other places in Canada. And I want to have a global brand. And I also, the biggest thing for me too is helping others. Like I see myself doing that. I created the YouTube channel Hold Spark, which is basically showing my business like background and what's happening all the time. And I'm hoping that really inspires people and actually educates them. And I'm planning to do more in-depth breakdowns of all the things that I do in my marketing and everything on that channel as well.
Right. So almost helping them, breaking down for them how to do this, how to do that, like really in depth, because I think that's a big lack in social media and digital is people graze over those in-depth details because some people want to have that really set plan before they dive into something, and they might act on it, but they want to have a set plan. So you can obviously assist them in that, in how to do so. It's right.
So true. And I think there's a lot of fake stuff going on right now. So I think it's hard to find good quality information.
For sure. Well, we're going to have to cut it off there, but thank you so much for listening to Meeting Gold with David here from Hustle and Fit, the CEO of Hustle and Fit. And hey, maybe we'll have you on a year from now, and I don't know, the bags will be Good Life, YMCA, they'll be selling them for you. So
make sure you check out Hold Spark too. Hold Spark is my YouTube
channel. Shout out, like I'll put your stuff down in the video below, as well as the audio too. Why don't you give us a couple ads here real quick? Go ahead.
So if you're interested in looking at the Hustle and Fit duffel bag, go to official Hustle and Fit. And actually, Hold Spark is my personal side of thing, my personal brand, which is something that I said is great that you're doing, because that's something I didn't do last year. So now you can actually see a little bit behind the scenes. For sure. Well, guys, thank you so much. Live stream. You'll get to see the behind the scenes of this conversation as well. But we'll cut the cameras here. So we'll fade it out, David. Once again, man, thank you. Really appreciate it. My pleasure, man. Yeah, of course. Really appreciate it, David.